Reborn, the first thing I did was go to the doctor to have my eyeballs removed, turning myself into a blind girl. In my previous life, I participated in a painting competition with my boyfriend's white moonlight, claiming to be a painting prodigy. My boyfriend's white moonlight submitted a painting identical to mine before I could, in front of all the viewers in the painting competition's live stream. My boyfriend's white moonlight accused me of plagiarizing her. I wanted to defend myself. But my boyfriend, who was a judge for the painting competition, slapped me hard and said, "I never expected you to be this kind of person. I was so wrong about you." Netizens called me a copycat bitch and hurled insults at my entire family. I was cyberbullied to death by self-righteous netizens, and even my elderly parents weren't spared. After my death, the white moonlight rose to fame as the goddess of painting, and my boyfriend proposed to her. And it was only then that I learned that all of this was just a smear campaign orchestrated by Bai Yueguang and her boyfriend to build her public image. When I opened my eyes again, I wondered, without my eyes, how could she still accuse me of plagiarizing her? Wang Xingnan, what else can you possibly say in your defense? The evidence is irrefutable. You are plagiarizing. Louis charged up to me aggressively, a hint of barely concealed triumph in her eyes as she looked at me. She forcibly removed my painting from the easel and placed it next to hers for comparison. The painting competition was being broadcast live, and under the high-definition camera, every viewer in the live stream could clearly see two identical paintings. The only difference is that Louis's piece is already finished. Meanwhile, mine is only 80% complete. The live stream chat instantly lit up, with viewers passionately spamming the comments, "Oh my god." I wouldn't say there are some differences, I'd say they're completely identical. They're not even pretending anymore and just started copying outright. Does she think the audience and judges are all fools? It's so blatantly obvious. I'm honestly speechless. There's always someone trying to sneak through in these formal competitions. An overwhelming wave of bullet comments came flooding towards me, all filled with accusations against me. The judges on the panel were all looking at me with disapproving gazes. My boyfriend, Gu Jinzhao, was also sitting among the judges. Seeing me being condemned by everyone, there was no concern in his eyes, but rather a flicker of excitement. Cough, cough. Amidst the attention of the crowd, he stood up and cleared his throat. "Wang Xingnan, the evidence of your plagiarism is right here. What do you have to say for yourself now, as your boyfriend? It truly pains me that you would plagiarize Louis's work out of jealousy, whether as a creator who loves painting or as a boyfriend who has been deceived. I cannot tolerate your actions, nor can I shield a plagiarist. Wang Xingnan, I want to break up with you." He spoke a lot of high-sounding words, and his pained expression didn't seem fake. Soon, netizens praised him for his act of upholding justice at the expense of his personal relationship, and he forcibly gained a wave of fans. And Louis, with tearful eyes, stood behind Gu Jinzhao, looking at me with an expression of extreme grievance. "Wang Xingnan, I always thought we were friends. I never expected you to plagiarize my painting in such an important competition. I really misjudged you." Louis, who was already delicate and frail in appearance, now wore a pitiful expression that instantly swayed the hearts of the judges and audience in her favor. My boyfriend, Gu Jinzhao, couldn't hold back any longer and started walking toward me. He stopped right in front of me and raised his hand to slap me, but in the next second, his raised hand didn't come down. Instead, I firmly caught it. Gu Jinzhao seemed even angrier. "You actually dare to dodge." Hearing his furious voice questioning me, the memories from my past life flooded my mind, and my heart turned cold. Last time, it was Louis who took the lead in submitting a painting identical to mine. In the live broadcast viewed by the entire internet, she publicly accused me of plagiarizing her work. I couldn't understand why my creative idea had appeared in Louis's painting. Just as I was about to defend myself, Gu Jinzhao slapped me without giving me a chance to explain. He didn't give me any opportunity to refute. Grabbing my hair, he began dragging me out, cursing furiously as he did so. "I never expected you to be a plagiarizing thief. I was so wrong about you." Netizens knew that Gu Jinzhao was my boyfriend. With this relationship, his verbal abuse towards me became undeniable proof of my plagiarism. No matter how I tried to explain, it couldn't be washed away. I became the plagiarizing bitch, despised by the entire internet. After being cyberbullied to death, my elderly parents soon followed, but later, as my soul drifted in the air, I saw Gu Jinzhao propose to Louis. The two of them leveraged the plagiarism scandal to gain massive traffic, and their status and influence soared. Louis became the goddess of painting, and Gu Jinzhao became the stern judge, thriving effortlessly in the art world. Only I ended up with my family destroyed and myself dead, becoming a lonely wandering ghost. After being reborn, the first thing I did was go to a doctor to have my eyeballs removed, making myself completely blind. In my previous life, I suffered from a severe eye disease, but because of the painting competition, I wanted to complete one last important contest before going blind and having the surgery. In the end, however, I met a tragic death. In this life, I want to see how Louis and Gu Jinzhou can still slander me without their eyes. As my thoughts returned to the present, feeling Gu Jinzhou's anger, I tightened my grip on his wrist with my right hand. Feeling the pressure from my grip, Gu Jinzhou became furious. Wang Xingnan, what exactly are you trying to do in front of everyone? You're not satisfied with plagiarizing contestant Louis' artwork, and now you want to assault me, a competition judge. As soon as the words were spoken, the live chat exploded with comments, all saying I was ungrateful and wouldn't admit defeat until faced with undeniable proof, but I remained completely calm. Under Gu Jinzhou's incredulous gaze, a faint smile curled at the corner of my lips. I lifted my head to face him and said in a flat tone, Gu Jinzhou, you really have a silver tongue. The way you're defending her so fiercely, anyone would think you're Louis' boyfriend. Gu Jinzhou was taken aback, not expecting me to say that. I'm speaking from a judge's perspective, without any personal feelings involved. I laughed even harder. Then why did you show Louis my competition design draft in advance? As soon as these words were spoken, the entire room fell silent. The barrage of comments in the live stream paused for 2 seconds, then grew exponentially. Wait, what kind of shocking revelation is this? Did Gu Jinzhou show Louis Wang Xingnan's design draft for the competition in advance? Is there any evidence? If so, doesn't that mean the one who plagiarized is actually Louis? Holy crap, this plot is full of twists and turns. Even TV dramas wouldn't dare to script it like this. Seriously, is this really something we can watch for free? It's absolutely thrilling. I need to buy a couple of pounds of sunflower seeds and call all my friends over to watch together. Originally, the competition faced plagiarism issues, and the director considered halting the event due to the emergency and shutting down the live stream. But now, seeing the skyrocketing popularity of the live stream, the director is having second thoughts. After all, painting is a niche interest. From the initial rounds to today's finals, the combined attention from all the previous matches hasn't matched the buzz generated by today's unexpected incident. In the age of entertainment, traffic is king. After weighing the pros and cons, the director ultimately couldn't resist the temptation to capitalize on this wave of attention. He allowed the live broadcast to stream the on-site events to the entire internet and even specifically instructed the director to focus the camera on the three of us. As the comments began to shift, Gu Jinzhou's expression turned visibly uncomfortable, and Louis quickly cast a pleading glance in his direction. Faced with my questioning, Gu Jinzhou played dumb, claiming to know nothing. He pretended to be completely baffled, saying, Wang Xingnan, if you plagiarized, just admit it. What do you mean by deliberately throwing mud at me and Louis? If Louis had peeked at your design draft in advance and created a painting identical to yours, then why, as the original creator, is your painting speed so much slower than Louis'? As his words fell, the live chat once again shifted in response to Gu Jinzhou's accusations. Yes, if Wang Xingnan is the original creator and the design draft for this competition piece was already prepared, then she should have painted very quickly. There's no reason she should be slower than Louis. It seems Wang Xingnan is just stubbornly denying her plagiarism, seeing that she can't clear her name. She's trying to drag the judges and other contestants down with her. I almost feel sorry for Gu Jinzhou. How did he end up with such a disgusting girlfriend? If it were me, I wouldn't have been able to resist kicking her long ago. Gu Jinzhou only wanted to slap her. He really has a gentle temper. More and more netizens began to support Gu Jinzhou and Louis as the incident continued to unfold. Many local netizens spontaneously went to the painting competition venue to pressure the director. They held rotten eggs and wilted vegetable leaves in their hands, glaring fiercely at me. If it weren't for the security guards blocking them, I fully believed they would throw those things at me the next second. Seeing the crowd's excitement and public opinion on their side, a glimmer of victory flashed in Gu Jinzhou's eyes. He didn't even bother pretending anymore, grabbing Louis' hand as the two of them walked up to me together. Gu Jinzhou appeared to be caring, but in reality, he was kicking me while I was down. Wang Xingnan, given the circumstances, your best option is to withdraw from the competition and leave the art world. From now on, stop calling yourself an original painter. Louis nodded in agreement. Yes, considering you were Brother Gu's ex-girlfriend, I won't pursue the matter of you plagiarizing my work. Let this end with your withdrawal from the competition. Her magnanimous attitude quickly won praise from netizens, with comments flooding the screen calling her a kind-hearted goddess, both talented and beautiful. As for me, I was treated as the control group, and in the eyes of netizens, I became a rat scurrying across the street. Everyone, whether they knew me or not, wanted to take a jab at me. My ears were filled with the curses of netizens who had rushed to the scene. Some, overwhelmed by emotion, nearly broke through the security guard's barricade and threw a punch at my face. Amid the situation where everyone was cursing me, I surprisingly felt none of the panic that Gu Jinzhao and Louis had imagined. Instead, I nodded in agreement. Under their puzzled gazes, I spoke in agreement. Yes, those who plagiarize should just withdraw from the competition on their own. So, Louis, as the plagiarist, you should quickly withdraw from the competition, and Gu Jinzhao, as a judge, in order to help Louis, you chose to betray other original creators. Your actions have stripped the word judge of its meaning of fairness. You should also withdraw from the competition. After I finished speaking, both the live audience and online viewers were stunned. Wait, is Wang Xingnan crazy? Who exactly should be the one to withdraw from the competition? I must be dreaming. In this day and age, plagiarists can openly demand that judges and original contestants withdraw from the competition. I must not be awake yet. Not only were the netizens shocked, but even Gu Jinzhao and Louis were stunned, standing there staring blankly at me. Wang Xingnan, have you lost your mind? How dare you ask me and Louis to withdraw from the competition? Did all that plagiarizing fry your brain? As Gu Jinzhao was about to say something else to backstab me, I no longer wanted to play along with his act. The audience in the venue has mostly arrived, and they have spontaneously taken out their phones to record, with enough onlookers present. I am not at all afraid that the director and Gu Jinzhao and Louis might collude to cut off the live broadcast when I say something unfavorable to them. I pointed at my unfinished painting, looking completely calm. The reason I am painting slower than Louis is because of a specific reason, and this reason happens to prove that I am not the plagiarist. Louis is the one who plagiarized me. Then show it to us. Whether he was confident or just putting on a show. Gu Jinzhao immediately roared at me after I finished speaking, urging me to produce evidence. My body remained still, but the slight trembling of my naturally hanging arms betrayed the emotional turmoil within. Seeing me tremble, Gu Jinzhao and Louis assumed I was afraid and couldn't produce any evidence, merely putting up a stubborn front. With reddened eyes, Louis guided public opinion to condemn me. Wang Xingnan, I know you're jealous of my creative talent, but you can't plagiarize my hard work, and you certainly can't try to destroy me after being exposed. I clearly said that as long as you withdraw from the competition, I could let bygones be bygones, but you've repeatedly slandered me, making the original creator suffer injustice. This is just too unfair. Gu Jinzhao even stepped forward, wanting to stand up for Louis. The truth was about to come to light, but it would be built upon my wounds. I struggled internally, making my final mental preparations. Caught off guard, I was successfully pushed down by Gu Jinzhao with great force. At the same time, my hand resting on the sunglasses went limp and relaxed. As my body hit the ground, the sunglasses slipped off my face, revealing the truth they had been concealing. The entire venue fell silent instantly, and the barrage of comments stopped scrolling, because, in my eyes, without sunglasses, there are hollow, sunken eye sockets. My eyes have no eyeballs. What on earth is going on? Can someone please tell me why Wang Xingnan is a blind girl? Oh my god, so Wang Xingnan completed 80% of the painting in the competition while blind. That's absolutely unbelievable. I'm completely shocked. Comments like these were still flooding the live stream's bullet chat, and the netizens who had rushed to the scene offline, after seeing my vacant eyes, were also stunned into silence, staring unblinkingly at my fallen figure. Fortunately, the staff reacted quickly and stepped forward to help me up first. After pushing me to the ground, Gu Jinzhao turned and walked away, his back to me as he softly comforted Louis. Louis also buried her head in his embrace, and the two of them, thinking they had victory in their grasp, completely failed to notice what was happening at the scene, let alone see my blinded eye. They only thought they were about to win, mistaking the audience's gasps as admiration for Gu Jinzhao's rage on behalf of his beloved, completely unaware of what everyone was actually discussing. Without even bothering to turn around, Gu Jinzhao spoke loudly with the back of his head facing me. Wang Xingnan, at this point, it's no longer something that can be resolved by you withdrawing from the competition. You have repeatedly slandered contestant Louis and challenged my dignity as a judge. I hereby demand that you publicly apologize to both me and Louis, and guarantee that you will never appear in the painting world again. Louis added at the right moment, I didn't want to get entangled with you originally, but you kept bullying me, and I couldn't take it anymore. Now what I need is not just an apology, but also emotional compensation from you. Otherwise, I will contact my lawyer and have him sue you. As the words fell, Gu Jinzhao and Louis raised their heads and straightened their backs, looking toward the live stream, hoping to find words of agreement in the comments. However, instead of finding supportive remarks, they found a flood of uniform accusations and doubts. So Gu Jinzhao was just bullying a blind girl. pushing her down and not even helping her up. On top of that, he turned his back to talk to her. That's just too disrespectful. I also misjudged Louis. It's clear now that Wang Xingnan is the weaker one. She's blind. Where would she get the money to make the compensation Louis is demanding? And don't you think a blind person wouldn't be able to plagiarize anyway? Even if Wang Xingnan wanted to copy Louis's paintings, she'd have to be able to see them first, upstairs. You make a good point. I'm starting to believe Louis is the plagiarizer now. Otherwise, it's hard to explain why their statements are so similar. Gu Jinzhao and Louis were stunned. After seeing the comments saying I was blind, they even forgot to control their expressions and hurriedly turned to stare at my eyes. Then, they met my hollow, lifeless eye sockets. In the two sunken, unsightly eye sockets, there were no eyeballs. Louis was startled, screamed, and stepped back. Shrinking into Gu Jinzhao's arms, her voice was filled with thick disgust and trembling. What kind of monster is that? How can someone have no eyeballs at all? It's so ugly, so terrifying. As soon as these words were spoken, the righteous individuals in the live stream couldn't stand it and began flooding the screen with accusations against Louis. Everyone has a responsibility to care for the physical and mental health of people with disabilities. Let's not discuss the truth of the matter for now, but as a public figure, how could Louis personally attack Wang Xingnan's physical disability? Doesn't she know that this is an insult to people with disabilities? Before this, she was promoted as the goddess of painting. How can someone with such a narrow-minded attitude be called a goddess? I think she's more like a female ghost. Seeing Louis being publicly criticized by netizens, Gu Jinzhao could no longer sit still. Pressing the teary-eyed Louis's head against his chest, Gu Jinzhao turned to me, ignoring the netizen's scolding, and instead fixated on the issue of my plagiarism. Sorry, Wang Xingnan, Yi is a fragile girl at heart and has never experienced being slandered before, so she got a bit emotional, but she means no harm. What she said wasn't directed at you, she was just frightened and momentarily lost control. Seeing him spew nonsense, I couldn't help but find it utterly ridiculous. What do they mean by Louis being a fragile little girl who's never experienced being slandered? Does that mean I, Wang Xingnan, am not fragile inside, who isn't a young woman fresh out into the world and inexperienced? In my previous life, when Gu Jinzhao and Louis teamed up to falsely accuse me of plagiarism, online users chased me all the way to my home with their insults. They hacked all my social media accounts and splashed red paint on my front door. I couldn't sleep day or night. Curling up under the covers, terrified that the fragile door wouldn't withstand their assault and the emotional netizens would burst in and beat me to death. My parents were implicated as a result. Netizens brought the issue of my plagiarism to their workplaces, pressuring their leaders to fire them, causing my parents to lose their stable jobs in their 50s. I posted information online that could prove my innocence, sharing the electronic version of the design draft that Gu Jinzhao had stolen back then. Anyone who has done illustration knows that a draft isn't completed in one go. It needs to start with sketching the initial draft, then refining the details, followed by partial coloring, and finally requires liquefaction adjustments. Even this is just for ordinary drafts. When it comes to competition-level artworks, they often start with hundreds of layers and cannot be completed overnight. Yet after I posted these layers, there wasn't a single view. I desperately created multiple accounts to repost, hoping to boost the popularity of my posts, only to find that all my accounts were banned due to someone's deliberate actions. This wasn't the most despairing thing. Just as I gave up posting on social media and wanted to contact public accounts and TV stations to clear my name, Louis posted my original layers on Weibo. My posts that had no views, in her hands, received hundreds of likes and tens of thousands of views in minutes. Netizens were all praising her for having divinely skillful hands, capable of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, piecing together simple layers into an exquisite and dazzling artwork. Some people also envy her for having such a brilliant mind. How is it possible to have so many imaginative ideas? Blending elements from mythological stories with modern concepts to create an entirely new genre. In front of the computer screen, tears of blood streamed from my eyes. Tears mixed with blood fell drop by drop onto my hands, staining the fair skin crimson and soaking the clothes in front of me. It was then that I learned I had conjunctival cancer and that only by undergoing an enucleation surgery could I save my life. Otherwise, the cancer cells will spread to my brain. And not even a divine being could save me, but my family has been burdened by me, having spent all their money to compensate Louis, and there's simply no money left for my surgery. Besides, I've long stopped wanting to live. After shedding tears of blood once again, I let out a deep sigh and, while my parents were asleep, knelt and kowtowed 3 times in front of their door. Then he turned and left, jumping from a building in the neighborhood where Louis lived. I want to use my death to tell all netizens that I am innocent. I did not plagiarize, nor did I do anything wrong. However, Gu Jinzhao and Louis remained completely unruffled, making bold statements online, claiming that I jumped from the building in Louis' neighborhood because I felt guilty and was trying to atone for my sins in this way. I'm already dead. How could I possibly refute them? I thought I could drag them down with me. But I never expected they would use my actions to their advantage, turning the situation in their favor. My soul drifted in the air, utterly hopeless as I watched my parents also fall victim to the online violence and die. The ones who started it all, Gu Jinzhao and Louis, were happily getting engaged in a grand church, praised by the online art community as if they were gods. Perhaps the tragedies of my past life were too unbearable, as my thoughts swirled in my mind. The atmosphere around me grew so oppressive that even Gu Jinzhao dared not speak another word. After I came to my senses and withdrew my imposing aura, Gu Jinzhao pretended to be composed and continued, Wang Xingnan, I didn't expect you to become blind. It must be quite difficult for you. Let's do this. We'll each take a step back, and I won't pursue the plagiarism matter any further, and you just apologize to Yi. Then we can consider this matter closed. I coldly interrupted him. Is it that you're no longer pursuing it, or is it because you realized you can't pin the blame for plagiarism on me after seeing that I'm blind? Weren't you just saying that I'm an unforgivable plagiarist before I took off my sunglasses? So why is it that when you see I have no eyeballs, you change your attitude and say I just need to apologize and you won't pursue it further? My words were well-reasoned and justified. And the netizens in the live stream were also influenced by my train of thought, starting to think in the direction I suggested. It feels like the tide is turning. Wang Xingnan makes a valid point. A blind person simply can't plagiarize, and Wang Xingnan has always claimed to have the design draft for the competition. As long as that draft is produced, it should prove who the plagiarist really is. What the netizen said is exactly what I wanted to bring up. I know that when Gu Jinzhao and Louis set up the scheme to frame me for plagiarism, they must have hidden that design draft so I couldn't find it. I tested them step by step, setting traps with every sentence I spoke, never closing off the conversation completely, leaving them with a glimmer of hope for a comeback. The purpose was to lure Gu Jinzhao and Louis into bringing out that design draft. They would definitely claim that the design draft was in their possession, and that I had secretly looked at Louis' draft beforehand, memorizing the details inside. That's why I was able to paint in the competition as a blind person. Sure enough, while I pretended to lower my head and rummage through my bag for the draft, Louis, ignoring Gu Jinzhao's attempts to stop her, took it out from her own bag first, waving it around proudly in front of the camera. She spread the design drafts out in front of everyone, her voice filled with an air of arrogant confidence. The design drafts are in my hands. Wang Xingnan, stop pretending. You clearly need to look at my design drafts in advance. The public opinion in the live stream was once again swayed in Louis' favor. After all that, it turns out the one who plagiarized was actually Wang Xingnan. Originally, I thought she was blind and felt so sorry for her, thinking she couldn't possibly do something like plagiarize. Now it seems I was too soft-hearted. Assuming that the weaker party must be in the right, yes, we were all used by her. The design drafts are in Louis' hands, and facts speak louder than words. Wang Xingnan is the plagiarist. However, some people who observed the entire situation have raised different perspectives. I don't think Wang Xingnan needs to plagiarize. She is a blind painter, and the public tends to sympathize with her from the outset. She could easily follow the path of being a blind person who persists in painting, which would attract far more attention than winning a single painting competition. The statement also makes some sense, and many netizens have shifted their stance. Following his lead in attacking Louis, the live stream was filled with heated arguments, with opinions divided, some supporting me, others siding with Louis and Gu Jinzhao. But there was no unified consensus. Seeing that the situation was not in her favor, Louis' beautiful face twisted slightly, her expression turning somewhat sinister. She's trying to set me up again. Wang Xingnan, I know you're unwilling to accept this. You feel that my appearance has taken Brother Gu away from you, and you've always held a grudge against me. That night, while I was chatting with Brother Gu, you sneaked into my study and looked at my design drafts. I've known about this all along, but I've always wanted to give you a chance, to see if you would actually copy my painting in the art competition. If you didn't, then I could pretend this never happened and would never bring it up again, but I never expected that you would still do it, and do it so thoroughly, making me take the blame for your plagiarism. Wang Xingnan, I considered you a friend, yet you've repeatedly betrayed me. I'm truly heartbroken. Louis' tearful accusation, with reddened eyes, made it seem as if she couldn't bear to look at me. She possessed a striking appearance. And in front of such beauty, netizens naturally showed greater tolerance. Moreover, the one being compared to her is me, a blind girl who doesn't even have both eyeballs. Wang Xingnan, why don't you apologize to Louis, and we can just let this matter pass? Considering you're blind, we're all being quite lenient and won't pursue the matter of you slandering Louis any further. Some netizens who were present couldn't stand it anymore and had already started speaking up to support Louis, turning the blame on me instead. Gu Jinzhao chimed in, that's right, Wang Xingnan, everyone has been so lenient with you, giving you chances again and again, just hurry up and apologize. Though I couldn't see, I could still imagine how smug Gu Jinzhao must have looked when he said those words. He probably thought that without the design drafts, I no longer had any chance to turn the tables. Unfortunately, things won't go as he expects. He's going to be disappointed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I turned my head and faced Louis with hollow eye sockets. Although in terms of identity, I am a disadvantaged blind person and a contestant with an unshakable accusation of plagiarism, but as I stood there, facing Louis and Gu Jinzhao, it was as if I had an army of thousands behind me, and when I spoke, my words carried the force of thunder. Since you have the design drafts, you must also be able to produce the original layers of the files. However, Louis froze on the spot under my questioning. What original layer? Wang Xingnan, what are you trying to twist again? I don't understand. Louis thought she could clear herself by ignoring it, but she didn't expect Gu Jinzhao to immediately change his expression, rush over, and cover her mouth. She struggled in confusion, her eyes darting around. Just then, she noticed the comments in the live stream had shifted, and the netizens on the scene were looking at her with inexplicable gazes. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I opened my mouth again and directly questioned Louis. I said, since you can produce the design draft, you must also be able to provide the original layers, right? Louis finally managed to break free from Gu Jinzhao's grasp. She didn't understand what the original layer was, thinking it was just some basic and unimportant thing, especially since Gu Jinzhao had never mentioned it to her before. Thinking about what they had agreed upon, to establish her persona as the goddess of painting, under Gu Jinzhao's desperate gaze, Louis uttered the most ignorant and foolish sentence, I'm a painting genius, I never need the original layer for my design drafts, no matter what kind of artwork it is. I can finish it in one go. The netizens on the scene gasped in disbelief, looking at Louis with incredulous eyes, yet, pitifully naive, she thought the netizens were admiring her creative abilities. She then added something even more shocking, someone like you would never understand my creative talent. Some things are innate, no matter how much you envy it, you can't have it. Holding back my laughter, I pretended to agree and nodded. So you mean you finished the design draft in one go without using any layer overlays at all? Louis lifted her chin and said proudly, what are layer overlays? I don't need them. I don't even need the original layers, let alone overlays. Only someone as foolish as you, who only knows how to copy, would need layer overlays. All the viewers in the live stream were stunned, and the comments were filled with exclamations about Louis's ignorance and foolishness. Oh my god, what a huge drama. It's literally a jaw-dropping scandal. I never thought that in the year 4084. I would still get to witness the thief crying stop thief with my own eyes. This is just too thrilling. Louis saw this and thought the audience was helping her accuse me, so she became even more arrogant and haughty. She looked at me smugly and said, Wang Xingnan, the evidence that you plagiarized my painting is undeniable. Now you not only need to issue a public apology, but also compensate me for emotional damages. I want 1 million. I'm almost driven to laughter by her foolish appearance. If I still had my eyeballs, I would definitely look at Louis and Gu Jinzhao with the gaze reserved for idiots. Laughing, I said to Gu Jinzhao, so this is your beloved Moonlight, the goddess of painting. Someone who doesn't even know the difference between the original layer and an overlay layer dares to market herself as the goddess of painting, claiming to have unparalleled talent. My words were filled with heavy sarcasm. Gu Jinzhao opened his mouth to retort but suddenly realized the situation was beyond saving. There was no chance left for him to clear his name. Louis, however, didn't understand and thought I was a grasshopper in its death throes. She pointed a finger at me. Wang Xingnan, don't be a sour grape just because you can't have what I have. I don't need the original layer or overlay layers. Who says I do? I'm the goddess of painting. I have talent, all right. I couldn't hold back after all. Seeing her act so foolishly, I burst out laughing, just as Louis was confused and about to speak recklessly again. With a flushed face, Gu Jinzhao finally couldn't hold back any longer. He grabbed her body and slapped Louis hard across the face. Enough, stop talking. Louis widened her eyes in shock, covering her face as she looked at Gu Jinzhao in disbelief. Brother Gu, why did you hit me? The evidence against Wang Xingnan for plagiarism is undeniable. I have the design drafts in my possession. There's no way she can turn this around. Now it's even better. Originally, I was just using the design drafts in layers to trick her, hoping to let netizens see who the real plagiarist is, but she couldn't hold back and ended up confessing everything about stealing my design drafts. Gu Jinzhao's figure swayed unsteadily, trying to hold on to finish what he had to say. But upon seeing Lu Yi's foolish appearance, he couldn't hold back any longer. Furious, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Even as he collapsed to the ground, he continued to curse incessantly. It's over, it's all over. How could someone not even know what a layer is? I actually thought she had some skills, but now it's all over. Although the staff were disgusted, they still had to do their duty by taking out a stretcher and carrying Gu Jinzhao away. However, even though they were responsible, the netizens at the scene were not buying it. After realizing they had been fooled by Lu Yi and Gu Jinzhao and nearly framed me, a poor blind painter, they were extremely angry and passionately demanded an explanation. Before the stretcher could be carried out, netizens stopped it and began punching and kicking the unconscious Gu Jinzhao. At the same time, after reading the shocked explanations in the bullet comments, Lu Yi realized she had been exposed. Wide-eyed with fear, she tried to find a chance to escape, but with so many eyes fixed on her, how could she possibly find an opportunity? Soon, rotten eggs and wilted vegetables thrown by netizens landed on Lu Yi. The stench was unbearable, and her clothes were stained with chicken droppings. Lu Yi screamed and scurried away with her head in her hands, but was stopped by netizens who were eager to take action. Some spat, some threw trash, some pointed and cursed, and others threw punches that landed squarely. The scene was truly lively and spectacular. After a round of attacks, 2 bruised and swollen big pig heads lay on the ground. As for me, I was isolated under the spontaneous protection of netizens and remained untouched by the conflict. After dealing with Lu Yi and Gu Jinzhao, I took out the tablet I had prepared earlier and displayed the original layers from my conceptual process under the camera. Netizens were surprised to discover just how much preparation I had put into this painting. Each layer was incredibly intricate, and when all the layers were stacked together, there was even an unexpected little detail. This detail wasn't included in the design draft. It could only be achieved through tablet manipulation, and it was something I was about to reveal in my unfinished painting. 999 grand and vibrant peony flowers leap off the page, each one blooming towards the east. Holding it further away, one can clearly see that through the design of perspective and shadows, they appear to be at varying distances, aiming towards the sky. A line of red characters is reflected on the paper, celebrating the motherland's birthday. Happy National Day. Everyone was stunned, their eyes wide open, both for my exquisitely designed painting and for my red patriotic heart. As expected, the championship of the painting competition fell to me. Standing on the podium, my empty eye sockets grew slightly moist. In this lifetime, I have finally cleared my name. The end. That concludes the first story. Stay tuned, the next one is even more exciting. I am a blind woman who accidentally regained my sight, only to discover that my husband is actually 2 conjoined men connected at the back. So, whose child is the one in my belly? 1. I noticed the change while listening to the news in the morning. The TV was reporting on the case of a missing female college student, and I was completely engrossed when suddenly a sharp pain shot through my temple. I couldn't help but close my eyes. When I opened them again, a white light suddenly appeared in what had been a dark and empty world. A patch of green was swaying before my eyes. Green. My husband told me that the curtains at home are green. Could it be that my eyesight has recovered? In my excitement, I accidentally knocked over the milk glass. Then I vaguely saw a puddle of white liquid spreading across the floor. The missing girl is wearing a white school uniform and blue canvas shoes. If you have any information, please feel free to call. The sound from the television continued. Wu Qing happened to be mopping the floor behind and immediately approached with concern, asking, "What's wrong?" I held my husband's hand, intending to tell him that I seemed to be able to see something. But when I saw him, I couldn't help but freeze, because I vaguely saw that there was a person clinging to Wu Cheng's back. I shook my head and looked again, but that figure was still there. It felt like looking at something through a glass pane covered in condensation. I felt lost again. It seems my vision hasn't fully recovered yet. I'm actually seeing one person as 2. Nothing. I just lost my balance for a moment. I'd better not say anything for now. Let's observe for a few more days to avoid getting his hopes up for nothing, Wu Cheng asked me. Are you feeling unwell because of the pregnancy? I nodded. Possibly. Thinking of the child, my heart softened. I stepped forward to hug my husband, but he pushed me away. Yo, wait a bit. I still need to mop the floor. As I expected, after 3 years of marriage, Wu Qing never let me hug him. I said and didn't insist anymore. I am blind, but Wu Qing has all his limbs intact, since he can accept my imperfections. I can also accept his unique habits, for example, not being able to hug. Another example is sleeping in separate rooms, or, for instance, loving to wear raincoats. Although I haven't seen it with my own eyes, I have washed it many times. It was the kind of raincoat with an enormous hood that could cover the entire head and even the whole body completely, too. After sleeping through the night, I was awakened by the pitter-patter of the rain. In my drowsy state, I actually saw the pure white bedsheets, the beige cabinets, and the curtains fluttering in the wind. My heart skipped a beat, and I was so nervous I didn't dare to breathe. I could even see the dark marks left by the rain on the floor. I waved my 10 fingers in front of my eyes, and I could still see everything clearly. I've really regained my sight. With a click, the sound of the door opening came from outside. It must be Wu Qing coming back with breakfast. Overjoyed, I threw off the covers, rushed out of bed, and walked straight out of the bedroom barefoot. Honey, I need to quickly tell Wu Qing this good news, but as soon as I reached the bedroom door, I felt as if a bucket of water had been poured over me. I saw my husband in the warmly decorated living room, unpacking a huge cardboard box. Wu Qing had his back to me, wearing a loose black raincoat, with a large hood covering his entire head. He was indeed as tall as I had imagined. The cardboard box had been opened, and I saw a woman lying inside. The woman was wearing a white school uniform and blue canvas shoes. Her skin was bluish-purple, and her limbs were stiff. Having studied nursing, I could tell at a glance that this was a corpse. I stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. The news I had heard echoed in my ears. Is this my husband? Did he kill this woman? I wanted to call out to him, but couldn't utter a single word. Suddenly, a hand emerged from Wu Qing's raincoat. Weren't both his hands busy unpacking the box? The hat was pushed aside, and I saw a man's face hidden inside it. That face was turned toward me, and when he saw me, he smiled slightly. Then, another hand emerged from the raincoat, holding a steamed bun and a cup of soy milk. The horror of the scene was comparable to encountering a ghost. My heart pounded with fear, and I couldn't help but step back repeatedly. In an instant, I suddenly understood. All the past abnormalities now had a reasonable explanation. I finally understood why Wu Qing never spent the night with me and never allowed me to get close to him. It turned out that he and his brother were conjoined twins. I didn't even know which of the two was Wu Qing. The man facing me at that moment was staring straight at me. Perhaps noticing that I wasn't in the right state, he put away the breakfast and nudged the man behind him who was unpacking a cardboard box. They turned around, and I saw another man's face, with thick eyebrows and a slightly darker complexion. This man had an honest and sincere appearance. My intuition told me he was Wu Qing. Sure enough, he put down the body in his hands and asked me, "Yao, are you up?" The most familiar voice, but I did not respond. He asked again, "Why are you trembling?" I could sense Wu Qing becoming noticeably alert. "Yao, can you see with your eyes now?" I kept shaking my head, only to realize I was shedding tears. He rushed forward and asked excitedly, "Can you see now? Speak quickly." Afraid of being found out, I pretended to be in pain and said, I have a stomachache. A stomachache. I nodded, my eyes no longer focused, continuing to pretend to be blind as I looked ahead. It was at that moment that I clearly saw the face of the female corpse. There was a long, thin scar on her face. Only then did I remember. I knew this person. Yao, you're bleeding." Wu Qing's words snapped me out of my thoughts. I instinctively looked down and saw blood flowing from under my nightgown. My heart trembled, my vision went black, and I fell into a coma. For, when I woke up again, I found myself lying in my own bed at home. Wu Qing was sitting by my bedside. I opened my eyes and happened to meet the gaze of the man standing behind him. I almost fainted again. "Yao, you're awake." I heard the heavy-hearted tone in Wu Qing's voice. "How long have I been asleep?" I forced myself to sound calm, my hands groping over the blanket as if searching for him. Wu Qing abruptly stood up from the bed, probably afraid I might touch the man behind him. Throughout this, the man kept watching me with a meaningful gaze. My scalp is tingling, and I've got goosebumps all over. Wu Qing leaned over and took my hand, saying, "You've been asleep for several days." I remained silent. I was actually thinking about how to find a chance to call the police. Yao. "The baby is gone. What did you say?" I sat up in shock. Wu Qing lowered his head, but his expression showed no trace of sadness. "The doctor said your body was too weak, which is why you had a miscarriage." How could this happen? I pretended to cry, but in my heart, I actually felt a sense of relief. That's fine too. There is a murderer and conjoined twin father. This child should never have been born. I leaned back against the headboard and asked knowingly, "So, am I in the hospital now?" "I can't let him find out that I can see," Wu Qing said. "No, while you were unconscious in the hospital, you kept repeating that you wanted to go home. This morning the doctor said your condition was stable, so I brought you back." He then said softly, "Yao, you're still young. You'll have more chances to become a mother in the future." I didn't speak again, but I kept stealing glances at the man beside me out of the corner of my... The man behind Wu Qing, who was his brother. Didn't say a word from start to finish. Indeed, if he had spoken, I would have noticed his presence much earlier, but as I look back, it seems there were indeed a few times when Wuqing was in the living room or kitchen, and I faintly overheard voices in conversation. Each time, Wuqing would say it was his phone or the sound from the TV. I never grew suspicious, because I would never have dreamed that the man I spent every day with was actually two people. This is absolutely ridiculous. Don't be sad, I'll go make you some chicken soup. Wuqing stood up and walked out of the room. As he walked away, it was his brother facing me again. He looked slightly younger than Wuqing, with a fairly regular appearance, but he had no legs, like an appendage. He leaned against Wuqing behind him. After they went out, I lifted the blanket and secretly followed them. 5. Wuqing and the others went into the kitchen. I walked into the living room and found that the body was no longer there. What surprised me even more was the arrangement of the living room. The flower pots on the balcony were filled with sunflowers. The painting on the wall was also a replica of Van Gogh's sunflowers that I had mentioned before. Just because I once told Wuqing that there is no light in my world, sunflowers are my favorite. The calendar hanging on the wall was also filled with red circles. Upon closer inspection, it recorded various things about me, from birthdays to anniversaries. From the day I had a fever to the day I fell down, every detail was noted, and the walls are painted in my favorite yellow color. Even though the yellow paint doesn't look good, even though I am blind, I have to say, I was truly moved by this sincerity, but more than anything, it was fear. I approached the kitchen and faintly heard coughing coming from inside. The voices of two men in conversation followed. What do you plan to do with the remaining people? It wasn't Wuqing's voice. It must have been his brother. I heard my husband say, find all of them, and kill them all. My heart suddenly trembled. A voice came from over there again. Sister-in-law seems off. I suspect she might be able to see, calling me sister-in-law. It seems Wuqing is the older brother. They actually suspected me so quickly, Wuqing said. Could it be because of the medicine? I'll test her out over the next few days. Medicine? What medicine? Hearing them as if they were about to walk towards the door, I didn't dare to listen any further and quickly ran back to the bedroom to lie down. What kind of person is my husband? Hiding back under the covers, shivering, Wuqing came in shortly after. Yaoyo, have some milk first. The chicken soup is still simmering. Wuqing handed over a glass of milk. I peeked out and saw his younger brother also tilting his head, looking toward me. I gasped and dared not reach out to take it. There's a 90% chance there's something wrong with this milk. I don't want to drink it right now. Drink it. You're too weak. It'll be good for your health. Although Wuqing's tone was gentle, it somehow sounded like he was giving me an order. I shakily reached out my hand, deliberately putting on an affected pose. It's too hot. You drink first. Wuqing brought the milk to his mouth and blew on it, then handed it to me, saying, I've had some. It's not hot anymore. He was lying. He didn't drink at all. I pushed him away again. I don't want to drink. I want to sleep. All right. Cough. Then you rest first. He coughed again and stopped insisting. He turned around and prepared to leave. At that moment, his younger brother behind him placed a few sunflowers into the vase on the bedside table. He also casually took away the phone from the bedside. All of this, I could only pretend not to see. After they left, I covered my head and thought despairingly about my situation. I really want to call the police, but the woman Wuqing and the others killed is named Pan Jiayue. She is the woman I hate the most in my life. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have become blind. 6. I don't know how Wuqing met Pan Jiayue. We used to be classmates, but she caused me to go blind. After losing my sight, I dropped out of school, while she went on to get into graduate school. Wuqing killed her. Why? They also said they would kill the remaining people. Who is that again? Thinking about these questions gave me a splitting headache, and I soon fell into a deep sleep. A long time later, Yaoyo, I heard someone whispering in my ear. I groggily opened my eyes and instinctively pushed away Wuqing's hand that was reaching out to stroke me. Has it gotten dark already? As soon as I said that, all my drowsiness vanished and I became fully alert. This would reveal that I had regained my eyesight. Yaoyo, you. I caught a whiff of danger in the air. I reached out and groped around, finding my husband's hand hanging by the bedside. Honey, I must have been half asleep and almost forgot that I'm blind. Wuqing sighed and said, Yaoyo, it's still daylight. What? The sky is bright right now. Tell me honestly, did you regain your sight before? I froze. I have gone blind again. My heart sank to the depths of the sea, and I let out a bitter laugh, my voice hoarse. I can't see. I've never been able to see. That's good. Realizing he had said the wrong thing, Wuqing coughed awkwardly twice. If there's any situation, be sure to tell me in time. Okay. I nodded. Here. Have some chicken soup. A spoon was pressed against my lips, and I stopped resisting, opening my mouth to drink it. Why are you crying? His voice suddenly became flustered. I choked up and lied. I lost the baby, and I'm so heartbroken. Actually, I was crying because I was too terrified. I don't know if there's poison in this chicken soup. The next person to become a cold corpse might be me. The thought of having to live with those two inseparable people in the future sent a chill down my spine. Tears kept flowing uncontrollably as I pleaded, "Can I go for a walk with Yuan to clear my mind? I don't have many friends, and Xie Yuan is someone I met just a few months ago. We hit it off right from the start, sharing everything with each other, and she has always been very caring toward me. I am blind, but she patiently accompanied me shopping, took me to friends' gatherings, and encouraged me to meet new people, helping me step out of the dark world. If I could invite her to my home, I could seek her help." Xie Yuan, hearing this name, Wuqing didn't seem very happy. I nodded. "Where's my phone? I want to give her a call." I reached out and fumbled around the bedside again, this time genuinely searching. "Actually, I knew they had taken my phone. Let me help you send her a message instead. You're not in good health right now, and phone radiation is strong." I realized that Wuqing was starting to be wary of me. Afraid of giving myself away, I could only nod and say, "Okay." But then he suddenly asked me, "Yao Yao, didn't you mention before that you had a classmate named Pan Jiayue? 7. Wuqing suddenly brought her up. I tightened my grip on the blanket, answering as if casually, "Yeah, why bring her up all of a sudden?" "Nothing. It's just that I remember you once said your blindness was because of her, so I wanted to ask about the specific circumstances back then." I turned my head away, uninterested, but I don't want to talk about it. If it were before, I would have been willing to recall the darkest moments of my life in front of my husband, but now, I don't even know what kind of person my husband, who I've been living with day and night, really is. I won't tell him a single word of truth anymore. He sighed and rubbed my head. "Then you should rest. I'll contact Xie Yuan for you and see if she can come to the house to keep you company." Hearing the sound of the bedroom door locking, I immediately felt my way out of bed. Crouching in front of the nightstand, I opened the drawers one by one, trying to find my phone, but found nothing. There was nothing on the nightstand either, except for that pot of sunflowers. Wait, sunflowers? This was placed by my bedside by Wuqing's younger brother. Did something get added above that made my eyes go blind again? I couldn't figure it out no matter how much I thought about it. Besides this, I couldn't understand why I suddenly went blind again, tiptoeing to open the door. I pressed against the crack and heard faint voices coming from the living room. She must have regained her vision before. I heard the voice of Wuqing's younger brother. He asked again, "Do you think sister-in-law will call the police?" Wuqing did not speak. After a long time, I finally heard my husband speak. "Xiao Chuan, it turns out that killing can really become addictive." He also said, "No matter what, she can't see now anyway. Heaven is helping us. We just need to keep a close watch on her." I stumbled back into the bedroom, trembling, and collapsed weakly onto the floor. All I could hope for was that he would keep his word and help me arrange for Xie Yuan to come over. 8. The next day, Xie Yuan actually showed up. "Have a good chat. I'm going out to buy some groceries." The sound of the door closing was heard as Wuqing went out. Xie Yuan sat by my bedside and asked with concern, "Yao Yao, are you okay?" She held my hand. Her palm was all sweaty. Xie Yuan is always like this. Whenever I'm not in a good state, she worries endlessly. I touched my good friend's hand and revealed a long-lost smile. Xie Yuan wears the bracelet I gave her on her hand, one I had previously obtained from a temple to pray for her safety. Naturally, Wuqing also has the same bracelet, but now when I think of him, my mind is filled only with horror and fear. I leaned close to Xie Yuan and whispered, Yuan, can you do me a favor?" Xie Yuan was still wiping away tears. It seemed my miscarriage had affected her deeply. "What? Can you help me call the police? I feel like Wuqing is acting strange." "Is that so?" She gave a forced laugh. "Here to show off your love again, are you?" "No, it's him. It seems like he killed someone." Xie Yuan stopped laughing, looking very surprised. "How could he kill someone? Wasn't he always good to you?" I said. "I don't know why he killed someone either. And the person he killed is actually someone I know. By the way, did you know, Wuqing has a younger brother?" Xie Yuan didn't speak. "I don't know." After a long pause, she hurriedly added, "I guess she must have shaken her head just now. You always used to wonder why Wuqing wore that oversized raincoat at home, didn't you? Actually, it's because he's a conjoined twin. His younger brother, whom Wuqing calls Xiao Chuan, has no legs and is attached to his back." Upon hearing this, Xie Yuan also gasped in shock. Such a thing really exists." "Yes, I never expected my husband to be two conjoined people. I accidentally saw it a few days ago when I suddenly regained my vision, but now, he drugged me again, and I can't see anything." The more I spoke, the more upset I became. Why am I so unlucky? I was blinded by someone before, and just when I thought I had finally found true love, it turned out to be a murderous monster. Xie Yuan held my hand, and her hand was trembling slightly. Anyone who heard this story would find it absurd and terrifying. "By the way, Yao, how did you lose your sight?" Xie Yuan asked. "Can you tell me what happened before?" I reminded her. Yuan. "The urgent matter now is to call the police quickly. I'll tell you about this later." Xie Yuan, however, said, I've already called the police. Don't worry, you've already called the police. Yes, I just sent a text to call the police. You can also report by sending a text message. I let out a long sigh of relief. That's good, then it's perfect. While we wait for the police to arrive, I can tell you about it. 9. The thought that Pangaea's body might still be hidden somewhere in my house. I am both fearful and yet feel a sense of relief. I began to recount everything to Siayuan from the very beginning. 5 years ago, I was still in college. I am a child who came from the mountains. When I was in elementary school, my father went to work on a construction site and accidentally fell from the scaffolding, tragically passing away. Thanks to the unscrupulous contractor, the compensation was only 5,000 yuan. Fortunately, I was the only child in the family, so even after my father passed away, my mother's burden wasn't too heavy. But the good times didn't last long. In my senior year of high school, my mother suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage due to years of overwork. She became partially paralyzed and lost her ability to work. Thinking of my father who passed away suddenly, I gave up the chance to apply for a top-tier university and chose to attend a local ordinary second-tier college instead, so that I could take care of and accompany my mother, relying on financial aid for impoverished students. I rented a place off campus, balancing the responsibilities of caring for my mother and pursuing my studies. It was around that time that I met Pangaea. The first time I heard this name was when a sudden flood hit a certain region in the country, and the school organized a donation drive. I donated $10, the least amount among all, while Pangaea donated a full 20,000 for a wealthy heiress like her. I never thought we would have any intersection. Yet she was the one who approached me first. That day, I was about to go to my part-time job when a girl stopped me. "Classmate, I have something to discuss with you." I looked at the girl dressed in designer clothes in front of me, feeling puzzled. She got straight to the point. "I have a friend who really likes you. How about going on a date with him?" Since starting school, perhaps because my appearance is somewhat decent, I have indeed received many expressions of interest from boys. But I simply had no time to spare. I just wanted to focus on my studies, do my part-time job well, and take care of my mother, so I flatly rejected Pangaea. I made it very clear that I wasn't interested in dating and told her and her brother not to waste their time on me, but in the days that followed, she was like a piece of gum stuck to me. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake her off. Several times, she brought her friends and that boy to block my way under the teaching building. They made a scene in public and wouldn't let me leave. As for the boy who was pursuing me, I can't even remember his name now. In short, just like Pangaea, she is a rich second generation. I despise them, but Pangaea looked down on me and said, "Aren't you short on money? If you get together with my friend, what he gives you in a month would be enough for you to spend for several years." This made me despise them even more. I thought a firm refusal would bring me peace, but I never expected it would lead to the other person becoming even more relentless. 10. It was New Year's Day. It was supposed to be a holiday, but because I was working part-time at the school cafeteria, I had to stay until the cafeteria closed before I could get off work. The cafeteria staff were very kind. Knowing about my mother's situation, they specifically let me leave early. I just need to take some old cardboard boxes to the warehouse, although the warehouse is remote. It happens to be on my way back to the rental house. I didn't expect someone to follow me. When I arrived at the warehouse, I unlocked the door with my key. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard the sound of the lock clicking shut behind me. My heart tightened, and through the old-fashioned steel-barred security window, I saw Pangaea's face. She was accompanied by another girl, a student who often followed her around, flattering and trying hard to please her. "Zhang Yao, it's New Year's Day today. My friend wants to celebrate the new year with you. Will you come with me? If you do, I'll let you out." I was furious, gripping the window frame and shouting angrily, "Are you done yet? I said I don't want to date anyone. Let me out now." After going back and forth a few times, she finally realized that my attitude was non-negotiable. "Fine, so you just won't give me face, huh? Then I'll have my brother come pick you up himself. He's probably still busy setting up the confession scene right now. What a shame, I can't get the female lead to come." After saying that, she left with her followers. I didn't have my phone with me, and after waiting for a long time, no one passed by. We can only wait for Pangaea and the others to come back. As I waited, I curled up and fell asleep in a pile of cardboard boxes. I had been working part-time for several days in a row and was just too exhausted. I was woken up by a thick cloud of smoke. When I woke up, I realized that the cardboard boxes in the room had caught fire. Amidst the continuous sound of fireworks outside, I immediately realized that a fire had broken out. The room was filled with many plastic bags, foam boxes, and other clutter, and the thick, black smoke quickly enveloped me like a tide. My world plunged into darkness. I covered my mouth and nose, but I didn't lose consciousness for a long time. This also caused long-term damage to my eyes. Just as the flames were about to reach me, I was finally rescued by people who had rushed in from outside. I wasn't burned, but I had fallen into a hell of nothing but darkness and emptiness. 11. Afterward, Panjayue compensated me with a sum of money and was publicly disciplined by the school, making a self-criticism in front of over 10,000 teachers and students. Her resentment toward me began from that moment. She believed it was my ingratitude and refusal to accept her goodwill that led to her punishment and caused her to lose face. She even claimed that my blindness was nothing more than a consequence of my own actions. After that, Panjayue repeatedly sent troublemakers to curse and slander me downstairs. She even used photo editing software to superimpose my face onto pornographic images, printed out a pile of fabricated materials, and posted them around the neighborhood. Though I am blind, someone tore those things down and brought them before my mother. Seeing her daughter's life constantly struck by misfortune, my mother was even more heartbroken than I was. Her body couldn't hold up, and she collapsed completely. I had no time to grieve for my lost sight, as I had to pray every day for my mother lying in the ICU. But later, all the money, including the compensation Panjayue paid me, was spent, and my mother still didn't wake up. She died the day before my birthday, all because of that crazy woman Panjayue. When those thugs were taken away by the police, they didn't expose Panjayue, so only they were punished. Their families were impoverished and couldn't even afford to compensate us. I was utterly disheartened and could no longer continue my studies. When I was going through the withdrawal process, Panjayue came to support me. It wasn't until she brought her face close to my ear that I realized it was her holding me up. Zhang Yao, you were the one who didn't know your place, and that's why your mother died. You're nothing but a jinx. My hands were trembling with anger, and I couldn't help but wildly lash out at the woman beside me. I scratched Panjayue's face. Later, classmates said that Panjayue's wound was deep and would definitely leave a scar. I knew very well that with her personality, she wouldn't let me off easily, so I bought a bus ticket and fled the city overnight. Later, when I was at my lowest point, I met Wu Cheng. I never expected that what I thought was salvation would lead me into another hell. 12. I told Xie Yuan everything in one breath. She didn't say anything, but let out a long sigh and handed me a glass of water. Has the police arrived? I asked, holding a water cup. Xie Yuan said, they should be here soon. I'll go check. For some reason, when she said this, it seemed as if her heart was filled with fear. How did you, by the way? I was about to ask her what was wrong when Xie Yuan added, since you can't see right now, the sound of sirens might be particularly harsh for you. Coincidentally, I bought you a new headset this time. Give it a try. A wave of warmth washed over me, and I said, you're so thoughtful. Xie Yuan didn't say anything. She leaned close to me and put the headphones on my ears. A sense of anticipation welled up inside me. Once Wu Cheng's matter is resolved, I still want to go out with you. Last time you took me to the party, I finally experienced the joy of drinking freely and enjoying life. It was truly exhilarating, she said. There will be opportunities. After the music started playing, aside from the singing coming through the headphones, I couldn't hear anything else. Just wait for the police to arrive. Thinking this, my eyelids actually grew heavier and heavier. Unconsciously, I closed my eyes again. When I woke up with a start and opened my eyes, I felt as if a long time had passed. Has the police arrived yet? I took off my earphones, got out of bed with practiced ease, and slipped on my slippers. Yuan, are you still there? Accustomed to the pitch-black darkness, I opened the bedroom door and unexpectedly discovered light in this world of void and obscurity. It seemed my vision had returned. The living room light was on. Following the source of the light, my eyes met a soft, hazy whiteness. Though I could only make out vague and indistinct outlines, it was enough to fill me with immense excitement. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. I guessed Wu Cheng had already been taken away, and it was Xie Yuan using the restroom. Just as I was about to head toward the bathroom, I felt something strange under my feet. I looked down and saw a blur of red before my eyes. A liquid, like accumulated water, had flooded over my slippers. It was blood. My legs went weak with shock, and I nearly knelt in the pool of blood. Turning my face, I realized there seemed to be something in front of the refrigerator. Taking a few more steps forward, I strained to see clearly. After trying for a long time, I finally came to the desperate realization that the outline was that of a person. To be precise, it was a corpse. The hair was somewhat long, as if it were a woman, stumbling over. I seemed to see a dark mark on the woman's hand. Upon touching it, I realized it was the peacekeeping bracelet I had given to Xie Yuan. Yao, a man's voice came from the bathroom. It was Wu Cheng. 13. Fear exploded in my mind like fireworks, and I mechanically turned around to look back. Vaguely, I could see the man standing at the bathroom door. He was bare-chested, looking as if he had just been taking a bath. If I hadn't seen that he had 4 hands, I would have convinced myself that the man before me was a normal man. Don't come any closer. My heart was pounding like a drum, afraid that he would approach. Yao Yao, can you see again? I couldn't clearly make out Wu Cheng's expression, but I sensed a hint of relief in his words. I weakly repeated, don't come closer, Wu Cheng said gently. Yao Yao, it's me, don't be afraid. It's precisely because it's you that I'm scared. Why did you kill Yuan Yuan? You also killed Pan Jiayue, and behind you there's still. Sister-in-law, are you talking about me? A third hand raised to signal me, and the person behind Wu Chen turned his face to look at me. My name is Wu Chuan, you've seen me before. In this situation, I forced myself to endure, barely managing not to collapse and faint. If you're like this, why didn't you tell me? I couldn't help but question, how can you marry me when you're like this? I even carried your child. It's just disgusting, you two monsters, murderers. Get out of my house. Only after I finished speaking did I realize that the word monsters was too harsh. I reminded them, the police will be here soon, and you will definitely face justice. Wu Cheng stood there without saying a word. Instead, Wu Chuan spoke up, sister-in-law, don't be angry, the people we killed were all scum. Sorry for scaring you, he added. Brother, turn around and let me talk to her, Wu Cheng said. Shut up. After scolding his younger brother, he turned to me and said, Yao Yao. The police won't come, at least not for now. What does that mean? He walked toward me step by step, and I kept backing away in fear. I was right beside you when you were talking to Xie Yuan. I told her not to call the police. What? I was both shocked and furious. You lunatic, what are you trying to do? Realizing I had backed up to the door, I immediately rushed forward, grabbed the doorknob, and tried to open it to escape. But the doorknob didn't budge. Sis, don't waste your energy. We've reinforced the lock, you can't escape. Wu Chuan's voice was clear, yet it filled me with despair. Wu Cheng turned and snapped at him angrily. Can't you just shut up? Then, switching to a gentle tone, he looked at me and said, Yao Yao, stop struggling, don't hurt yourself, be good, go inside and rest for a while. My tears streamed down as I shook my head in despair. Don't come any closer, but Wu Cheng simply picked me up, his movements very gentle. Don't worry, I would never hurt you. After dealing with one last thing, it will all be over. I continued shaking my head. I don't understand. Wu Chuan was still there laughing and joking. Sister-in-law's psychological resilience isn't that great either. Look how scared she is. Wu Cheng paid no attention and carried me into the room. After laying me down on the bed, he tapped the stray hairs behind my ear and gently kissed my forehead. I didn't mean to deceive you, it's my fault. During this process, Wu Chuan behind him kept fiddling with the curtain back and forth, like a childish child saying, that's so corny. My whole body was extremely weak, trembling uncontrollably, and I had no strength left to resist. Not long after, the doorbell rang. 14. Wu Cheng and Wu Chuan turned their heads at the same time, exchanged a glance, and said, let's go, bro. Wu Cheng nodded, let's go. I looked at the two of them in terror, but Wu Cheng just smiled and put the earphones on me. It's fine, just listen to some music. They went out. I heard the sound of the lock clicking shut. They added another lock to the bedroom from the outside. I took off my headphones and soon heard the sound of hammering coming from outside the room. Thud after thud, dull yet unsettling, I rolled out of bed, ready to pull open the window to call for help, but just then, the corner of my eye caught something in the bedside table's compartment. My vision was blurry, but it looked like a pink box. As if possessed, my hand holding the curtain loosened its grip. Turning around to take a closer look, I realized it was a medicine box. After holding it under the light for a long time, I finally recognized that box of medicine. It was abortion pills. Frantically tearing it open, I discovered it was empty. I suddenly thought of the child I couldn't keep. Did Wu Cheng give me the abortion pill? But why would he give me the abortion pill? My thoughts grew more and more chaotic. I thought of Pan Jiayue who had died, the abortion pill in front of me, and Wu Cheng's consistently gentle attitude. I suddenly realized that in this series of events, there seems to be a crucial link that I am unaware of. I began to recall the details of my life with Wu Cheng. Previously, he had always resisted intimate contact with me. Our marriage felt more like cohabitation, apart from holding hands and the occasional one or two kisses. Each time, Wu Cheng would tightly grip my arms to prevent me from touching any other part of his body. We never did anything else. Before we got married, he told me that he had some physical defects and might not be able to provide me with a normal married life. I didn't mind at all, even though he seemed somewhat sexually indifferent. I accepted it completely and never overstepped any boundaries, and the pregnancy happened because of that time Xie Yuan took me out for a drink. That was the first time I drank alcohol, and I got completely drunk very easily. My memory of that night is hazy, but I vaguely remember that in the end, Xie Yuan handed me over to Wu Cheng. Perhaps my drunken state made Wu Cheng see me differently. He overcame his physical limitations, and we spent a night unlike any other. Not long after that, I became pregnant. Now that I think about it, Wu Qing didn't seem happy when he found out I was pregnant, and our intimate contact was only that one night. It never happened again after that. Could it be, thinking about how Xie Yuan, who took me out drinking, died at Wu Qing's hands, a terrifying thought suddenly crossed my mind. I stopped trying to call for help and started banging on the bedroom door. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. The knocking from outside had already stopped. I heard Wu Qing coughing, and he said, "Don't open the door." Wu Chuan retorted, "Open the door. She's not as weak as you think. I don't want her to see this. You have to let her see. When you're gone, she'll have to learn to face everything." I took the opportunity to shout, "Wu Qing, could you please open the door? Don't worry. I won't be afraid. I already know the purpose behind all this." I no longer felt the fear I had for him just moments before, because I had already roughly figured out what was going on with all these things. Finally, the door slowly opened. I saw a man lying in the living room. My vision was still blurry, but I walked closer and stared intently at his face. Strangely, within just half an hour, I was no longer afraid of any of this. Although I couldn't see perfectly clearly, I still recognized him. This was the brother that Pan Jiayue had always talked about in college, the one who had a crush on me. I can't remember his name, but I would recognize this face even if it were reduced to ashes. 15. Seeing this, I stumbled, and Wu Qing promptly caught me. I instinctively avoided his embrace. Wu Qing froze for a moment, as if hurt by my action, but I have no time to dwell on these thoughts now. My attention remains fixed on that man's face. I opened my mouth to speak, only to realize my voice had turned hoarse. "Is Xie Yuan a fake name?" Wu Qing nodded. "Her real name is Xie Yuan Yuan. Xie Yuan Yuan." Yes, back when Pan Jiayue locked me in the storage room, the girl who followed her was named Xie Yuan Yuan. She used to be Pan Jiayue's sidekick, but because she had little presence, my impression of her wasn't as strong as it was of Pan Jiayue, so when she approached me using the name Xie Yuan, I didn't connect it to that incident from back then. So that night when she took me out drinking, the person who came to pick me up after I got drunk wasn't you at all, was it? Wu Qing didn't say anything, only coughed a few times. Wu Chuan became agitated. "That Xie Yuan Yuan is damn well deserving of death. She called and lied to my brother, saying you had fallen and were taken to the hospital. She even made up 4 or 5 hospital names. We ran around all night, and by the time we got home, you were already disheveled and delivered to our doorstep by Xie Yuan Yuan." He spoke with a childish tone. "These bastards really tricked me badly. If I weren't legless, I would have gone and killed them on the spot." Wu Qing said, "It's my fault. The initial excitement and hysteria have passed, and now I feel nothing at all." He continued, "I did want to kill them from the start, but they gave me a lot of money. I took it because I wanted to save up to buy you a house someday. If a suitable match is found, you could also have a corneal transplant surgery, a full million, with the likes of Xiao Chuan and me. We could never earn that in a lifetime." I stared blankly at the wall. "If you take the money, aren't you afraid that after I undergo the corneal transplant surgery, I won't be able to accept you looking like this?" Wu Chuan turned his face and said with a grin, "Sis, you're overthinking it. For conjoined twins like us, surviving this long is already a miracle. Lately, my brother's lungs have been having issues, and my heart isn't doing well either. Anyway, we don't have many days left to live. How could this be?" My heart suddenly ached with a sharp pain. No wonder Wu Qing had been coughing these past few days. Fate, I guess. It's fine. We've long expected and accepted it. Anyway, I'm not sad at all. After all, I took out a few scumbags before I died, so it's worth it. It's just that my brother is having a harder time. He's worried about you." I still couldn't see Wu Qing's face clearly, but I could feel the guilt and helplessness radiating from this man. "My feelings are very complicated," I said. "You two should turn yourselves in, see if you can apply for surgery to separate you brothers. As for the lung and heart issues, there are always ways to treat them. If we could have been separated, we would have been long ago. Many doctors have examined us. It can't be done. Besides, the lungs and heart are just the beginning. Our organs are starting to fail. We don't have many days left." As we were talking, Wu Qing's phone alarm suddenly went off. Yo, it's time to sleep. At 10 o'clock in the evening, this is the alarm sound he set for me. I can't distinguish between day and night. He always reminds me to sleep on time every night. Since I have no concept of night, I often suffer from insomnia. He would bring a stool and sit by the bed, gently patting my body to lull me to sleep. "Tonight, as usual," he said, "you go to sleep, I'll clean up the house, and tomorrow I will turn myself in. I'm tired too." So I nodded and said, "Okay." 16. I lay down on the bed in the bedroom. Wu Qing, as usual, brought a stool and sat by the head of the bed. He gently patted my body without saying a word. Wu Chuan behind me couldn't help but say, Damn, usually I can at least play on my phone, but tonight I don't even feel like touching my phone. As for Wu Chuan, from the initial tremor I felt when I first saw him, to the fear that followed, and now I'm completely unafraid of him. I recall how I first met Wu Cheng, how we became connected, and eventually started living together. It all started when I tripped over him on a rainy day and then gave him an umbrella. Later, he would always appear whenever I encountered difficulties. When I fell while walking, a pair of strong hands would help me up. When I dropped my keys and couldn't find them, someone would pick them up for me. When I was being followed, I would always hear the sound of a man running away in panic. Now that I think about it, it was most likely Wu Chuan's assistants. In the end, after helping me up one time, that man held my hand and said he wanted to take care of me. It just occurred to me that he didn't say for a lifetime back then. What would you do if I suddenly regained my sight one day? I asked him softly. Wu Cheng shook his head. I don't dare think about it. I might run away, but I can see now, and I don't see you trying to run. Wu Chuan chimed in. We're about to make our escape, off to enjoy some state-provided meals in prison. I couldn't help but laugh. Suddenly, I remembered my eyes and asked. My vision suddenly came back, then quickly went away. And now it's back again. Was that your doing? I suspected it was Wu Chuan, Wu Cheng explained. No, it seems it was because of that abortion pill. Perhaps your body suddenly received a shock, which temporarily restored your vision. I consulted a doctor, and you still need to undergo a corneal transplant surgery to fully and permanently regain your sight. I nodded. It seems I wrongly accused Wu Chuan. Wu Chuan raised his hands. I am truly wronged, Wu Cheng told me. The day after you came back from the drinking party, I bought short-term contraceptive pills for you, but I don't know why you still ended up pregnant. I touched my flat stomach and said, contraceptive pills aren't 100% effective. This child and I are connected by fate, but unfortunately, it's a cursed fate. I can't keep him. Wu Cheng nodded and said, just like you and me, although we are connected by fate, our bond is too shallow. I didn't say anything, just smiled bitterly in my heart. Let's sleep, Yao Yao. Staying up late is bad for your health. I nodded. Tomorrow I'll go with you to turn yourselves in, Wu Cheng softly said. After he turned off the bedside lamp, the two of them went out. When they reached the door, just before closing it, Wu Cheng said, good night, Yao Yao. Wu Chuan said, good night, sister-in-law. Against the light from the living room, I couldn't see their expressions clearly, only the silhouettes of the two figures illuminated by the light. It looked like an older brother carrying his younger brother on his back. I said, good night, close your eyes and let the tears flow freely. The next day, I was awakened by the ringing of my phone on the bedside table. Hello, may I ask if this is Ms. Zhang Yao? Yes, this is she. May I ask who's calling? I am the person in charge of the insurance company. There has been a car accident in the west of the city, and the deceased are a pair of conjoined twin murderers who had just turned themselves in, since they stated in their will that if they died from illness or an accident, all their inheritance and compensation would be given to Ms. Zhang Yao. Please come to the company now. By the way, are you blind? They also mentioned donating their corneas to you. If that's the case, please go to the hospital immediately. Extra Chapter 1. The winter when Wu Cheng and Wu Chuan were born. The snow was falling heavily. The Wu family gave birth to a freak, and the news spread throughout the village. Many children climbed onto the Wu family's wall, trying to see what the freak looked like, because the two children were abnormally connected. Their mother died during childbirth. After it got dark, the children's grandmother abandoned them on the ridge of the field. They were taken in by a barefoot doctor who also shared the surname Wu. The barefoot doctor never married in his life and was very kind-hearted. He named the child and raised him as his own. When he realized that a separation surgery would put both of their lives at risk, he decided to let them grow up as they were. He named the older brother Cheng, hoping that the older brother would not mistreat the younger one, and because the younger brother has no legs, he is called River. 3 strokes. 3 legs, River, eroded by wind and rain, has no way to move. It was thought that the two children might not live past the age of 10, but unexpectedly, they grew strong and resilient like sturdy trees. The older brother is physically sound and has a very steady personality. The younger brother has no legs and is connected to his older brother from the waist down. His temperament is also more unpredictable, prone to anger and irritability. Later, as medical technology advanced, a hospital offered to perform a separation surgery for them free of charge. The result was that the older brother had a high probability of surviving, but the younger brother would certainly die. Wu Cheng refused to agree at all costs and even violently attacked the hospital staff. This was the first time Wu Cheng had ever hit someone. In truth, his younger brother was even fiercer. Over the years, Whenever he faced scorn or ridicule, his brother would bare his teeth and snarl warnings, threatening to kill. He had once beaten a person who mocked him until their head was bleeding. If Wuching hadn't stopped him, he really could have beaten someone to death. Later, no one dared to provoke them anymore. 2. The barefoot doctor taught them to read and write, sheltering them with his kindness and sincerity, and also influenced them with this spirit, until after they turned 18. When he grew old and had no choice but to let the two brothers go out to make a living, Wuching and Wuchuan found a job moving bricks at a construction site. After the older brother finished moving, he turned around, and the younger brother could also move quite a bit. The co-workers all praised them for working efficiently and cooperating seamlessly. A few years passed, and they had saved nearly 100,000 yuan. But at the age of 22, the barefoot doctor fell seriously ill. Without a word, the two brothers took out all their savings. The barefoot doctor's illness was cured, but it relapsed the following year, and he passed away suddenly. All that remained was a single mud house, penniless. They wanted to find work again, but the construction site where they had previously worked had encountered engineering problems and was shut down. Finding another job that would accept them is no easy task. It seems the economy is getting better, but people's hearts are growing colder. They faced rejection everywhere and lived in poverty for a while. During the hardest times, they couldn't even afford an umbrella. They could only take shelter from the rain under the eaves of the alley. Huddled together, they didn't notice someone passing by and ended up tripping Zhang Yao, who was walking past. Wuching quickly helped the person up and apologized repeatedly. Wuchuan muttered under his breath, "How can someone so big still trip? Are you blind?" Zhang Yao's eyes showed a flicker of pain. "I'm sorry, I really can't see." Wuchuan looked at her expression and, after confirming that she was truly blind, couldn't help but slap himself in the face, thinking they were both just taking shelter from the rain. The kind-hearted Zhang Yao mentioned that she lived upstairs and offered her umbrella to Wuching. After she left, Wuching stared in the direction she had gone, lost in thought for a long time. 3. Wuching began to pay frequent attention to her. He silently watched over Zhang Yao on her journeys, always appearing promptly when she needed him. Wuchuan had no legs, yet he had to follow his brother around everywhere, so he was always full of complaints in front of Wuching. But whenever Wuching and Zhang Yao interacted, he would tactfully keep quiet, subconsciously hiding his own presence. Sometimes, he would say cheekily, "Bro, following her around every day like this? What's the difference between you and a creepy stalker?" After saying that, the two brothers would start wrestling with each other using both hands. Even though he said that, in reality, Wuchuan wanted his brother to be happy more than anyone else. One night, as they lay on their sides sleeping, Wuchuan said as if casually, "Brother, why don't you go get the surgery? After you recover, go pursue that girl, and then live a good life. Anyway, whether I live or die doesn't matter. After all these years, I've already gotten more than I deserved." Wuching didn't say anything, but from then on, he never went to see Zhang Yao again. Wuchuan knew it was because he was afraid he would overthink, so he came up with another idea. "Anyway, we don't have long to live, you should just go for it boldly. From now on, I'll keep my mouth shut and definitely turn a blind eye to anything improper. Who knows, maybe by the time we die, she still won't have found a matching cornea donor. Besides, with you around, she'll have someone to take care of her. Look at her, blind, stumbling every time she goes out, and always being targeted by scoundrels. I can't stand watching it anymore." Wuching was tempted. After Wuchuan repeatedly urged him on, he confessed his feelings to Zhang Yao. He said he wanted to take care of her. He didn't say forever, because he knew he couldn't have a lifetime with her. They moved into a rental apartment together. Zhang Yao didn't know he had a younger brother on his back, and she couldn't believe that a healthy person would be with a blind person, but only Wuching knew that if he were a normal person, he would also choose Zhang Yao without hesitation. He put on an act with Zhang Yao, hiring a few extras to pretend they had gone to get their marriage certificate. In reality, conjoined twins like them were unable to legally register their marriage. He treated her like a precious pearl, doting on her together with his brother. He never does anything beyond the bounds of propriety. Wuching was well aware that his actions went against human ethics and morality, so he constantly struggled between the pain of guilt and the sweetness of happiness. To show the utmost respect for the other person, he claimed to have a physiological defect and to be free of desires and needs. Additionally, since Zhang Yao was also a reserved person, their life together was characterized by simple companionship marked by mutual respect, without even the slightest hint of suggestive or explicit language. On many occasions, they found healing in each other within this sexless marriage. For, when Wuching learned that the woman named Xie Yuan, under Pan Jiayue's instigation, had another man harm Zhang Yao, it was the first time he did not scold or refute his brother's suggestion of killing as a solution. It turned out that Pan Jiayue had always held a grudge against Zhang Yao. That man was even more pathologically obsessed with Zhang Yao. Upon learning that Zhang Yao was still blind, he excitedly said, "Then there's no need to even wear an eye mask." Pan Jiayue, seeking revenge, had Xie Yuanyuan approach the nearly blind Zhang Yao. After gaining her trust, Xie Yuanyuan took her to a drinking party. They devised a plan, step by step, to lead Zhang Yao into the abyss. Afterward, they originally intended to give Wu Qing, who came to confront them, a small amount of money to send him away, but when he took off the hood of his raincoat, revealing Wu Chuan's face filled with murderous intent, everyone present was terrified. That perverted man, afraid of death, immediately offered to give them $1 million on his own initiative. Wu Qing was tempted, because just a few days ago, he had been diagnosed with a lung problem, and his younger brother's heart was also starting to show issues. If things continued like this, they wouldn't live for more than a year. It's not that I haven't thought about calling the police, but when he thought about how Zhang Yao would react if she found out about the harm she had suffered, Wu Qing couldn't imagine how devastated she would be. He would rather she remain a flower in a greenhouse, so letting the mistake stand wasn't such a bad thing. After getting drunk several times, he couldn't hold back his tears and said to his younger brother, "I failed to protect Yo-Yo." Wu Chuan didn't respond. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and said, "Those people still deserve to die." At this moment, Zhang Yao heard the noise and groped her way out of the room, asking, "Is someone talking?" Seeing her come out, Wu Qing wiped away his tears and immediately composed himself. "Yao Yao, I was just watching TV on my phone," but seeing her innocent expression, Wu Qing's tears flowed even more fiercely. 5. Wu Qing took the money and originally had no intention of killing anyone, but one day, he unexpectedly saw Zhang Yao's nude photos in a local group chat. It was July, the season of blazing sunshine. He put on a raincoat and found Pan Jiayue at the school. She is still in graduate school, wearing a pure white school uniform, which is a costume for the stage play. It was clearly a garment that represented beauty, yet it was worn by the most malicious person. She scattered a stack of photos, laughing triumphantly and viciously. "I was the one who posted the photos. She's blind anyway and can't see. Are you, a monster, going to help her report it to the police?" She lowered her voice again. "Then I might just have to reveal that you extorted $1 million from my brother." With that, she turned and walked away. Wu Qing trembled all over. As if all the blood in his body was boiling, he suppressed the urge to rush forward and kill someone in public. Picking up the photos from the ground one by one, the photos were scattered by the wind. He knelt on the ground, crawling to pick them up, trying to salvage his lover's dignity. Under the raincoat, Wu Chuan tightly closed his eyes. He swore to kill these beasts with his own hands. 6. After lying in wait for several days, Wu Qing made his move after Pan Jiayue finished one of her rehearsals. Later, he used lies to lure Xie Yuanyuan to his home. That day, he held a knife to her neck, listening to her conversation with Zhang Yao. He even typed instructions on his phone to show Xie Yuanyuan, making her ask the questions he wanted to ask. Hearing about Pan Jiayue's past actions, he felt even more justified in his act of killing, and he had no intention of letting the remaining people go. He had Xie Yuanyuan pass the water laced with sleeping pills to Zhang Yao, and personally put on her earphones, afraid she might hear the sound of him taking action later. He knew she was most sensitive to sound. Finally, he used Xie Yuanyuan's phone to send a message to that man, finding an excuse to lure him to the door as well. The door opened, and they didn't hesitate. They embarked on a wrong path of no return, adding another stroke to this tragic life. After settling everything and bidding farewell to Zhang Yao, they turned themselves in. First, they called to surrender, then walked to the police station. However, an accident occurred along the way. Unfortunately, they were dragged under a large truck, and both brothers died on the spot. No one knows if they intentionally sacrificed themselves, but it was well known throughout the city that trucks on that stretch of road disregarded traffic rules and drove recklessly. At the moment he was dragged under the truck, Wu Qing thought of the day he married Zhang Yao. He and she sat together and had a candlelit dinner. Behind them, Wu Chuan held up a mirror, and together they witnessed this warm and beautiful moment. All three of them were smiling. That was the happiest moment of their lives. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.